Hello, fellow Rosarians. Thank you for joining me today for another video. The sun's out here, so ignore me kind of squinting a little bit. I wanted to start here on the waterfront side with you today because a lot of people ask me, how do I feel about knockout roses? And I think that there's a place for every rose in any garden. So I wanted to start here so that I could put arrows up on the screen to show you where my knockouts are from the water view side. And we'll go ahead and get started, and I'll tell you everything that you need to know about knockouts. So first, I was looking at one of my favorite new books, and I did a review on it, Roses Without Chemicals by Peter Kukleski. And sure enough, knockout roses are shown in his book. He does in this book a recommendation for each regional area, and so knockouts are certainly something that you should consider for your region if you're looking for something that's proven and disease resistant. It is also noted in the American Rose Society handbook. So let me read real quick and tell you about the roses. This book I love because not only does it have pictures of all of the roses that are proven to be very hardy, it has the disease resistance, and for the knockout it's noting it out of 57 out of 60, which is highly disease resistant. If it's anywhere above 21, that's considered the highest rating for blooming. This is 25. There's no fragrance, so that's a negative for this rose, but maybe you don't care about the fragrance so much, but the total rating is 82. Knockouts sometimes receive criticism for its flower form and a lack of fragrance. The reason why this rose was hybridized was not for fragrance though. It was for disease resistant, and it has definitely accomplished that. There are several different varieties, and I'll go ahead and put all of the pictures of the available knockouts up on the screen here for you. It's an All-American Rose selection for 2000 and an ADR Rose Award in 2002. They're marketed to home gardeners, or a lot of commercial industries use them because they don't require a lot of care to continually keep on blooming. They don't need to be deadheaded. It's been given the earth kind designation, which means that it does not need chemicals or pesticides. They did an analysis, and I think it showed that as long as the rose could still have black spot or have a problem with pests, but as long as it didn't degrade the ability for the rose to be able to continue blooming by, I think it was 20%, but don't mark me on that, it could be given the earth kind designation. So this rose has been given the earth kind designation, and it has been a proven rose across the United States, and you'll want to check in here for your specific region. When you become an American Rose Society member, they'll send you this for free, and it lists all of the known roses in here, and it just says that it's a shrub, a red blend, single bloom, and they give it a rating of 8.3 out of 10. We've talked about the awards, the pros. It's available everywhere. And so if you go to your local nursery, your big box store, online, you can find this everywhere. So what's the con? It's available everywhere. And if you're looking for something unique in your garden, this won't be it, because they are everywhere. They're used in commercial industry. You might be going through a drive-through and you'll see beautiful knockouts in there in the drive-through, because a lot of the commercial landscapers want something that is beautiful and bright and easy to take care of, and so they're everywhere. So the size, it's a very quick grower with a huge impact from the road. So from my water, I can see them from 40 feet away. From the street, same idea. And so if you're looking for something that will grab attention from a far distance with that color, this is the rose for you. It can exceed, so the con here on the size is that it can exceed 7 foot in height if you don't maintain it. In our last home, I had it covering the AC units because I wanted to shield that view from the road, and they were beautiful and 7 foot and just huge color. And I know my sister, who is also in Fredericksburg, she has them flanking the outsides of her home, and it really softens the edge of the house, but they're over 7 foot if you allow them to get that high. I'll show you how I'm keeping the height down on mine because I don't want anything that large. So for fragrance, no fragrance. So if that's something that you're looking for, then this is not the rose for you. If you have other roses in your garden that you're using for scent, this could still be good as an accent color. Care, it's very easy and excellent for newbies to learn on this because you are going to be a professional pruner. If you are somebody that wants the really clean look and not the aged blooms, so you're going to get a lot of practice on pruning your roses. But if you decide that you don't want to prune a rose, you don't have time for it, it is still going to be prolific. It does not need to be deadheaded for it to keep on blooming. It's just you're going to have older blooms on the shrub and you'll have to decide if you like the way that looks or you can tolerate it. So then concerning pest and disease resistance, it was created for hardiness. So although you will have a little bit of black spot and the Japanese beetles still love it and the rose slugs still find it, it will not affect the ability of your rose to be able to keep blooming. Fertilizer, I've done a video on that, and so it's the same as all roses. A healthy rose with fertilizers and water has the ability to be able to fend off any other pest and disease. So it is a good idea to fertilize your rose on that monthly program. They are drought resistant. For sun requirements, they can be grown in the partial shade, and they are hardy from zones 5 through 10. So what are my feelings about knockouts? What I've heard on the internet, and I'm reading it here to you, it's called the fast food of the rose world. And I think of that like I do with my Vitex and my crepe myrtles, that they're the fast food of the tree world. They are just very hardy. You can let them go, even punish them to some degree, and they're still going to be fine. So I've heard that saying about them. A false rumor is that they are responsible for Rose Rosette disease. So let's keep in mind that because these roses are used in a commercial environment or by newbie gardeners who aren't looking at them on a regular basis or know what to look for, they can get Rose Rosette disease. But any rose can get Rose Rosette disease. It's just that where we're hearing about severe issues out west with RRD, it's also called, it's because I feel that those gardeners, whether it's a landscaper or a new gardener, they're just not maintaining the rose. If you're going out on a regular basis like I do, I'm kind of a helicopter mom with my roses. I'm out there all the time, twice a day looking at them. And if you are caring for this rose and looking at it on a daily basis, you're going to see the instant something starts to change. And you're going to be able to start researching it. Feel free to reach out to anybody on my Rose Geeks Facebook page. We're all sharing ideas all the time. There's a lot of helpful resources. If you see anything that's wrong, just reach out. But it is a false statement that knockout roses are responsible for Rose Rosette disease. So keep in mind, some people aren't going to like them because they don't have scent. Some people won't like them because they are boring, they'll say, because they don't have the they're not unique, they're everywhere, they've got single petals. So there's a lot of reasons why you might hear that somebody is not fond of a knockout rose. But keep in mind, if it's something that you like in your garden, it really doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. And in my case, I'm using the roses as something to keep me going through. I need to see color. So not only do I want bright impact from far distances, but I want something that is going all summer. You'll find that when you have other varieties of roses, besides knockout, they take a break. They have a lull after their first flush. It might be 6 weeks or so. You'll have another small bloom, they'll take another break, and then you get your third huge flush in the fall. And in between those times, I want something blooming all the time to give me a little bit of color. And so that's why I garden using knockout roses. So this is a coral knockout, and what I showed you from the water. Knockout roses have such a presence and bright color that they can be easily fit into the landscape. Next to it I have Heavenly Rosalind, but I think it's a great accent to my roses. The problem with coral knockout in my eyes, and I've heard from a lot of other people, is you can see I've left all of the roses that should be deadheaded if I want it to look clean. So in the event that you like a very clean rose and you deadhead often, this could be a little bit of a frustration because it's so prolific and blooming all the time, and there's lots of blooms that you're going to be doing lots of pruning. But hey, I see that's a great way for newbies to learn. So let me go ahead and show you how I clean this up. It just takes a minute, and then you'll see how it looks at the end. So for my knockouts, because I'm looking for a little bit of height and I'm not cutting it back, you can certainly look at our pruning video on cutting back to the leaves that have 5 on them versus 3 leaves to let you know that you're getting it down to its healthiest, strongest growth. But in this case, the first thing I like to do is just snip off the old blooms. If I'm in a huge rush, I just grab it and snap it off if I don't have my pruners out with me. But let's go ahead and just cut this now, all of the blooms that are dead. And I like to grab it by its head. Do that with all of your roses, because sometimes if I weren't moving the bloom out of the way, I often nip off a fresh new bud that I didn't mean to. So if I grab it by its head, not only do I keep all of the petals in one place and not falling down, but it allows me to make sure that I'm not getting any new growth either, or new buds and cutting them off by accident. I'm taking off all of the very aged brown buds, and I'll take these off also so that it can be putting all of its energy towards new growth. So after I take it down this far, if you look at it and say, well, you know, I really prefer this fresh, bright coral color versus something that's aging a lighter pink, now you can go ahead and take these off of your plant. Okay, so I've taken off most of the older blooms now. That gives you an idea of what the freshest color you can get on this coral knockout will look like. And after I take it down that far, if I decide that I want it to be even shorter, that I don't want it to outgrow its space, I'm going to look down here. So I see this has 3 leaves on it, 1, 2, 3. And so I can take off this entire cane here if I want and start bringing down this height on this entire rose, and it will be fine. So that gives you an idea how to do pruning, how it's going to look when it's completely cleaned up. I might have missed a few down here that I can't see from my view. But this will give you a general idea. So let's go ahead and look at some of the other colors that I have here blooming. Okay, so here is another knockout here. It's larger, it's got dark leaves, and then the new growth is very rosy purple in color. But the reason why I like this knockout is because I think it's a great contrast to, this is Twilight Zone. And my Twilight Zone, I've got Bolero back here, but this is my purple beds. And it really is just such a nice pop of color to offset and really showcase the other roses that are in this bed. So this is a bed that I have on my driveway, and the punch of color from that pink to the road is so bright and vibrant. And I love that this row will be absolutely full from wall to wall because the shrubs grow so large. I certainly have an iceberg in here, a David Austin, Christopher Marlowe to accent these roses here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pink double knockouts here. So I'll put up on the screen a picture of what they look like when they were in full bloom. And let me get you closer real quick so you can see how they look with the roses that need to be deadheaded. Okay, so this rose here is a really good example of how the blooms look when they are aged. It still looks very bright with the whiter wash on the edges. So if I go ahead and clip these in, this will give you an idea of how it looks. Here's an even better example here. This rose here I've clipped recently, so it's all very new growth. So you can see how bright that pink is. Take out that old growth and that's what you're left with. So I think that knockout roses add a great backdrop or a supporting plant, a companion plant for everything else in my garden. I mix them in with everything. So I've got my English roses, I have my shrubs, I've got my floribundas, my hybrid teas. I mean, I use them throughout my garden, and I hope that you'll consider them also. If you have any questions, feel free to reach down below in the comments. You can also join our Rose Geeks Facebook page. There's a lot of people there that would love to talk with you about any of your questions or concerns in the landscape, and I hope to see you in the next one.